Today, we're re-breaking down the United States' strategic response to Iran's violent domestic crackdown and explaining why Venezuela's recent political transition is shaping the bigger picture. Reports continue to pour out of Iran, describing a brutal and deadly crackdown on protesters. The situation has now escalated to the point where the United States has moved significant military assets, including an aircraft carrier strike group, into the region. But officials are framing this not as a march toward war, but as a clear signal of support for the demonstrators who are risking their lives on the ground. It's a show of force designed to send a message to Tehran. The world is watching, and the cost of repression is rising. This isn't just about deterrence. It's about providing a psychological boost to those fighting for change from within. The presence of a carrier strike group fundamentally alters the strategic calculus for the Iranian regime, forcing them to consider the international consequences of their domestic actions. Inside the White House, a range of targeted military options are being carefully reviewed. However, officials are proceeding with extreme caution. They are openly and acutely aware of the enormous risks involved. The primary fear is triggering a wider, unpredictable regional conflict that could spiral out of control. There's also a deep-seated institutional memory of the power vacuum that emerged after the Iraq intervention, and a strong desire to avoid repeating those mistakes. So, for now, the message is one of pressure, not outright escalation. The strategy is to tighten the economic and diplomatic screws, hoping to force a change in behavior without firing a single shot. This delicate balance reflects a broader shift in U.S. foreign policy, one that prioritizes strategic patience over preemptive action. Meanwhile, if we look at the U.S. approach in Venezuela, we see a completely different playbook. Following the removal of Nicolas Maduro, Washington is working far more methodically and collaboratively with the interim leadership instead of seeking a sudden regime collapse. The goal is a controlled, stable, and gradual transition toward democratic governance. This involves rebuilding institutions, supporting civil society, and carefully managing economic recovery to prevent another humanitarian crisis. It's a long-term investment in stability, contrasting sharply with the high-stakes pressure campaign directed at Iran. This dual approach shows the White House is tailoring its strategies to the unique circumstances of each nation, moving away from a one-size-fits-all foreign policy. Experts point out that Iran is becoming increasingly isolated on the world stage. Its network of regional proxies is showing signs of weakening, and the loss of key allies like Venezuela's cutting off vital political and economic lifelines that once propped up the regime. Some analysts argue this convergence of internal pressure from protesters and external isolation from the international community is creating a rare window of opportunity. It's a moment where the combined forces could potentially push the regime toward genuine political change, or at least force significant concessions that were previously unthinkable. This growing isolation is arguably a more potent weapon than any single military strike. So, what's next? For now, the White House has made it clear that all options remain on the table. This includes levying further sanctions to cripple the regime's finances, ramping up diplomatic pressure with allies, and if deemed absolutely necessary, authorizing military action. But the stated goal is simple and consistent: hold the Iranian government accountable for its violent actions against its own people, while strategically avoiding a wider, devastating conflict that could engulf the entire Middle East. The coming weeks will be critical in determining which path is taken. This is Money Unmasked, cutting through the noise so you can understand what's really happening behind the headlines. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more unfiltered analysis.